All right, good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this Village Board meeting to order on Tuesday, February 21st, 2023, and ask if you would all please rise and join the Village Board in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Would the clerk please call a roll?
Trustee Canty, Trustee Grasse,
Here.
Trustee Scaletta,
Here.
Trustee Baldino, Trustee LaBedz,
Here.
Trustee Bertucci,
Here.
Trustee Schwingbeck, Trustee Tinaglia,
Here.
President Hayes.
Here. First item on the agenda is the approval of minutes, and we have two sets to approve tonight. The first is from the Village Board and Library joint meeting on February 4th, 2023. Are there any changes or passes? If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve.
I move to approve the Village Board Library Joint Meeting for February 4th, 2023.
Second.
Motion by Trustee Grasse, seconded by Trustee LaBedz. Anything further from the board or audience? Saying none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Next, the Village Board meeting minutes from our meeting on February 6, 2023. Any changes or passes?
Move approval. Second.
Motion by Trustee Scaletta, seconded by Trustee Tinaglia to approve. Any further questions or comments from the board or from the audience? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We move on then to the approval of the accounts payable, and I call on Trustee Bertucci.
I'll move approval of the warrant register for check dated February 15th, 2023 in the amount of $2,638,248,248.59.
Second.
Motion by Trustee Bertucci, seconded by Trustee Scaletta. Any questions or comments from the board or from the audience? Seeing none, roll call.
Trustee Bertucci,
Yes.
Trustee Scaletta,
Yes.
Trustee Tinaglia,
Yes.
Trustee LaBedz,
Yes.
Trustee Grasse,
Yes.
President Hayes.
Yes. Move on then to citizens to be heard. And we do have two blue cards from individuals who wish to address the board on items that are not on the agenda. And you were just both reminded of the 3-minute time limit. And so the first is Flo Fiener. Flo?
My name is Flo Feiner, and I have been a happy resident of Arlington Heights for 42 years. While driving in Palatine, I noticed the fire hydrants look like they are brand new. And I stopped at the fire department, and I was told they were outsourced by a company specializing in restoring hydrants. Other villages have white, yellow, red hydrants, whatever. But I was wondering, since the Bears are going to bring revenue and excitement to Arlington Heights, and I was wondering if, and since many hydrants need to be restored, would you consider restoring hydrants in the official Bears colors, like orange and blue? And it would be very attractive. And I think it would be officially correct. A small project to see how they look and to see how cool it would be and create interest would be wise. So I just happen to know of 10 that really need restoring. And I know it's not Cows on Parade, but I do think that they would be noticed and appreciated. So if anyone would like to contact me any further, I will leave my card with the clerk.
Okay, Flo, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm sure we're going to hear many, many creative ideas of ways to incorporate the Bears colors and logos should it become a reality. And that's the first I've heard of fire hydrants. And so thank you for bringing that idea forward.
All right, and they need it.
All right, thank you. And next is Ronald Stolberg. Mr. Stolberg?
Thank you. Last winter, we were not allowed to go swimming or work out inside in the gyms. Some evil doctor from Cook County decided that they could make medical decisions for me without even examining me or knowing my medical history. They thought it would be unhealthy for me to exercise in the winter. I think we should fire Cook County Health Department. We can do better. August 26th, the governor of Illinois said the college students, the school staff, and medical students should get the COVID vaccine, or else they had to take tests. He said the ICU beds were overfull. But before, in the previous fall, there were 3.5 times as many COVID cases and 8.3 times as many COVID deaths per week. 50% of the residents, and mostly the old people, were already vaccinated, and medical workers would be able to make better health decisions for themselves than fat, evil politicians with possible conflicts of interest. And also, finally, it was already known that the COVID vaccine did not stop infection or transmission. There never was a statewide hospitalization shortage, downloaded from the IDP website. If you can get a picture of that. Empty beds all the time. Then Biden said that the unvaccinated were overcrowding our hospitals, overrunning our emergency rooms, and intensive care units. Well, I looked at the data, and I did see an increase of hospital emergency room visits. That happened in April 2021. That's when it went up the most, the steepest. And it kept going up. It kind of leveled off, but didn't come down yet by the time I looked this up when he was speaking. This could not have been caused by the unvaccinated people getting COVID, because COVID was going down. It was really low in the beginning of July, but the emergency room was still high. This was caused by the vaccine. The vaccine causes a lot of serious effects. Here's the book on it from the virus report, if you want to see this. And this is not a complete list. That's what happened. And then on December 21, Rachel Rubin from the Cook County Health Department decided to close the swimming pools and gyms and restaurants to the vaccine-free people. We should fire Rachel Rubin and the Cook County Health Department. I called the Cook County Health Department. I told them, do not vaccinate children under 30 years old, because the risks of the vaccine are much more than the risks of the COVID. And they didn't even work. It didn't even stop it. But she did that anyways. And finally, the number of deaths with and without COVID in 2021 were more than the deaths with COVID and without COVID in 2020. That's not just the total. Individually, the deaths with COVID were higher and the deaths without COVID were higher. And I blame this on the vaccine. It was a significant higher. So I think we should fire Rachel Rubin. I don't think she should be even practicing medicine.
Okay. Mr. Stolberg, if you could just finish your thoughts, if you would.
I think that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. We appreciate it. And Melissa.
Melissa Kerr speaking. The new owner of the Arlington International Racecourse is in good shape. They have the rail station. It's one stop away from downtown Arlington Heights, one stop away from downtown Palatine. There's a bike path to downtown Rolling Meadows. The corner of Euclid and 53 has apartments and a strip mall and a offices, and it's right down the street from Woodfield Mall and the Renaissance Hotel and Convention Center. It has access to 53 from Euclid and Northwest Highway.
Okay, thank you, Melissa. Is there anyone else in the audience who wishes to address the board on items not on the agenda? Seeing none, I would then close the citizens to be heard portion of the agenda and move on to old business, and we do have a number of items to consider tonight. The first is from a report of our committee, the whole meeting of February 13th, 2023, during which we discussed an ordinance amending Chapter 8 of the Municipal Code of the Village of Arlington Heights regarding street performers, or otherwise known as busking. So, Mr. Recklouse, do you want to give us a status of where we're at on that today?
I'm sorry, I was just conferring with Attorney Passman. Can you repeat your...
Well, regarding the busking ordinance, are we considering that tonight, or do we still need
it's
to
not
work
on the agenda this evening. We're still refining the wording, and that'll come before the board in one of the board meetings in March.
Okay, that's all I need to know. All right, if no further questions or comments on that, we will move on then to our swearing-ins. And so we will now report out the motions that were made and approved at the committee of the whole meeting from earlier this evening. And the first motion was made by Trustee Scaletta.
Thank you, Mayor. I would move now, as I did earlier this evening, to concur in the mayor's appointment of Lucy Johanovich for appointment to the Youth Commission term ending April 30th, 2023.
Second.
Motion by trustee Scaletta, seconded by trustee Grasse. Any questions or comments from the board or from the audience? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Well, Lucy, if you come forward to the podium, if you would. And we're going to make it official. So if you'd raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, and state your full name,
I, Lucy Johaniewicz,
having been appointed to the Youth Commission
having been appointed to the Youth Commission
in the Village of Arlington Heights,
in the Village of Arlington Heights,
in the County of Cook,
in the County of Cook,
do solemnly swear and affirm
do solemnly swear and affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
of the office according to the best of my ability.
of the office according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations, Lucy. We know you will. Come forward if you will. I'm going to present you first with this village logo pin, which all board members and both elected and appointed wear proudly as a representative of this community, and your oath, which you need to sign with our village clerk. So congratulations. And the next motion is reported out by trustee Bertucci.
I will move, as I did earlier this evening, to concur in the mayor's appointment of Terry Iverson for appointment to the Arlington Economic Alliance as an industrialist with a term ending April 30th, 2025.
Second.
Motion by trustee Bertucci, seconded by trustee LaBedz. Any questions or comments from the board or from the audience? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations, Terry. If you would come forward as well. And if you would raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, and state your full name,
I, Terry Iverson,
having been appointed to the Arlington Economic Alliance
having been appointed to the Arlington Economic Alliance
in the Village of Arlington Heights,
in the Village of Arlington Heights,
in the County of Cook,
in the County of Cook,
do solemnly swear and affirm
do solemnly swear and affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and I will faithfully discharge the duties
of the office according to the best of my ability.
to the office to the best of my ability.
Congratulations, Terry. Come forward if you would. Present you with the village logo pin as well. And if you would please sign the oath in front of the village clerk. Congratulations.
Thanks, Terry.
And next motion is by trustee Grasse.
I move now, as I did earlier this evening, to concur in the mayor's appointment of Carrie Oots to the, for appointment to the Arlington Economic Alliance Hospitality Industry, term ending April 30th, 2025.
Second.
Motion by trustee Grasse, seconded by trustee Scaletta. Any questions or comments from the board? Anything from the audience? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Well, congratulations, Carrie. If you'd come forward as well. And if you'd raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, and state your full name,
I, Carrie Oots,
having been appointed to the Arlington Economic Alliance
having been appointed to the Arlington Economic Alliance
in the Village of Arlington Heights,
in the Village of Arlington Heights,
in the County of Cook,
County of Cook,
do solemnly swear and affirm
do solemnly swear and affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and I will faithfully discharge the duties
and I will faithfully discharge the duties
of the office according to the best of my ability.
of the office according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations, Carrie. Come forward, please. And village logo pin for you as well. And please sign the oath with the clerk. Thank you. And last motion was made by trustee LaBedz.
Thank you, Mayor Hayes. I move now, as I did earlier this evening, to concur in the mayor's appointment of Ellen Para for appointment to the Arlington Economic Alliance Downtown Business Representative with a term ending April 30th, 2025.
Second.
Motion by trustee LaBedz, seconded by trustee Tinaglia. Any questions or comments from the board or the audience? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations, Ella, if you'd come forward. If you'd raise your right hand, Ellen, and repeat after me. I, and state your full name.
I, Ellen Para,
Having been appointed to the Arlington Economic Alliance
having been appointed to the Arlington Economic Alliance
in the Village of Arlington Heights
in the Village of Arlington Heights
in the County of Cook,
in the County of Cook,
do solemnly swear and affirm
do solemnly swear and affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
of the office according to the best of my ability.
of the office according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations, Ellen.
Thank you.
Logo pin for you as well. Congratulations. Well, we very much appreciate the willingness of these citizens to serve on our appointed boards and commissions. We've got nearly 200 members of our community who either live or work in the Village of Arlington Heights, serving in these capacities as recommending bodies to the elected Board of Trustees, and so we very much appreciate their critical role that they serve. And so if there's anyone out there that is interested in serving on one of our boards and commissions, please take a look on our website. It lists under boards and commissions, under our new website, very easily found, our different boards and commissions and what their missions are and generally what they do. And if you're interested in serving, we don't have a lot of vacancies right now, but if you're interested in serving, please let me know, let any members of the board know, and we'll be happy to explore some opportunities with you. All right, we have no other old business, and so we'll move on then in the agenda to the consent agenda. Any members of the board who wish to remove an item on the consent agenda? Any members of the audience wish to remove an item on the consent agenda? Melissa?
D and H.
All right, this is under
Consent
approval of bids,
Right.
B,
D, electric sedans.
as in Delta.
H,
and
electric vans.
H as in hotel, electric vans. Let's say those shall be removed.
All right.
Thank you. Anyone else in the audience wish to remove an item on the agenda? Seeing none, come back to the board. Any members of the board wish to vote no or pass on any remaining items on the consent agenda? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve the remaining items.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by trustee Tinaglia, seconded by trustee LaBedz. Roll call.
Trustee Tinaglia,
Yes.
Trustee LaBedz,
Yes.
Trustee Scaletta,
Yes.
Trustee Bertucci,
Yes.
Trustee Grasse,
Yes.
President Hayes.
Yes. We'll take the removed items now under approval of bids. So the first one was D Delta Electric Sedans purchased for the Health and Human Services Department. Mr. Recklaus?
Thank you, Mayor.
Let me have the staff present first, Melissa.
Okay.
Consistent with the strategic priorities of this cycle, staff has been looking at and experimenting with alternatively fueled vehicles. We did purchase a few weeks back, or a couple months back, our first electric vehicle. We've had a good experience with that. We find them to be a good fit for our inspection services because of the miles that they travel in a given day. And if you recall, what we are doing is to make up for the difference between the cost of a gasoline vehicle and electric vehicle. We're accessing that green fund, the green electric aggregation fund, to make up the difference. And we're at this point recommending the purchase of 3 vehicles that we'll be able to procure. Their Chevrolet Bolts, similar to the one we purchased earlier this year, and we're recommending that the village waive competitive bidding and approve the purchase of these 3 vehicles from the Chevrolet Exchange in Lake Bluff, who was able to give us a direct quote and give us a pretty reasonable delivery time.
Okay, thank you. Was there any questions or comments from the board? If not, Melissa, what was your concern?
I was wondering if some of the needs of that could be addressed with tricycles or electric golf carts, which would be cheaper solution and healthier.
Well,
Did you say tricycles?
Yeah, not for this purpose, I don't think. because
Adult-sized tricycles.
These inspectors do need to travel around the village, I'm not sure that that would be an efficient way of doing that, especially in the wintertime. Mr. Eckloss, any further?
No, I was going to say that, the inspectors do carry, in many cases, specialized equipment. They have to go great distances, and they often schedule these meetings in pretty tight succession. We try to keep them from going back and forth over town as little as possible. So we try to schedule these things pretty tightly so we can get a lot done in a day. And if we had a human-powered vehicle, which obviously that would be something that would be very green, I just don't think it would be feasible for this use.
Okay, thank you. All right, any further discussion from the board? Anything else from the audience? If not, is there a motion to approve?
Move approval.
Second.
Motion to approve by trustee Scaletta, seconded by trustee Tinaglia. Roll call?
Trustee Scaletta.
Yes.
Trustee Tinaglia.
Yes.
Trustee Grasse.
Yes.
Trustee Bertucci.
Yes.
Trustee LaBedz.
Yes.
President Hayes.
Yes. And next was the item H, which was electric vans purchased for the Public Works contract award and budget amendment ordinance. Mr. Eckloss?
Very similar, we're trying to move in this direction, and this was one that was really not planned, but given the lack of gasoline-powered vehicles, we're having no ability to find this particular model that we've been using for a gasoline-powered vehicle. And however, we found that and that they're canceling the order after 12 months or waiting for this new particular vehicle. However, we found that the cost differential between an electric van and a gasoline-powered van has come down considerably, and they do have some of these vehicles available as long as they're ordered by March 1st of 2023. And so this is, we found that this was a quite fortuitous situation. And so we're recommending the canceling of the order of the original gasoline-powered vehicles, amending the 2023 fleet budget, and transferring some money to allow this purchase, and then eventually the purchase of the 3 2023 Ford E-Transit vans from the National Auto Fleet Group of Watsonville, California, and approve the attached ordinance that authorizes staff to execute the necessary documents.
Okay, thank you. Was there anything from the board on this? Trustee LaBedz?
I do have a question. I take it that there's an electric charging station in Public Works, and then also related to that, do all the vehicles, can they all use the same kind of charging station, or whatever the process is for charging?
Based on the mileage, we anticipate using them, and the fact that the staff will work 8-hour days and it's charging for 16. We do not need any specialized chargers. They'll just be outlets.
Oh.
And outlets can be readily available in both the municipal garage for the previous agenda item for health, and in Public Works we already have them.
Okay, great. Thank you.
All right, Melissa?
Can some of the errands be solved by using tricycles and electric golf carts?
Okay, Mr. Eckloss?
Again, I think not what these vehicles are being purchased for. These are vans, and so these are carrying equipment, carrying supplies, and that's the function of these vehicles is not to just carry a person, but to carry stuff. And so I think that's an intriguing idea, but I don't think it would be a good fit for this concept. We do have police officers on bicycles when the weather is more conducive to that. And I think we're open to those ideas, but it is not a good fit for this particular concept.
Okay, thank you.
All right. May I suggest tricycles when you're looking at the side streets to fix and repair, because you get a great view of what all the problems on the street.
Okay, thank you, Melissa. All right, any other questions or comments from the audience or the board? If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve. Mr. Passman.
I just want to note, thank you, Mayor. I want to this item includes a budget amendment ordinance. Under state law, budget amendments require a 2/3 vote. Given that we have 3 absent trustees tonight, that means this item will require the approval of all 6 of you, if you indeed receive that motion, Mayor.
Okay, and the ordinance is included?
It is, yes.
Yeah,
The
okay.
materials do include that amendment ordinance.
Right, okay. So do we have a motion to approve?
I move to approve the electric vans purchase and ordinance.
Second.
Motion by trustee Grasse, seconded by trustee Tinaglia. Roll call.
Trustee Grasse.
Yes.
Trustee Tinaglia.
Yes.
Trustee Bertucci.
Yes.
Trustee Scaletta.
Yes.
Trustee LaBedz?
Yes.
President Hayes?
Yes. Okay, we are done then with the consent agenda and with approval of bids, and so we'll move on then to new business, and we do have 2 items to approve tonight, or to consider tonight. Jump the gun. But we welcome back District 25 to present again on expansions, additions to 2 more schools. And so, Mr. Schultz, welcome, and please proceed.
Good evening. Again, my name is Ryan Schultz. I'm the Director of Facilities Management for District 25. Again, to present 2 schools tonight. The first school will be Olive Mary Stitt, and similar to the other schools, these are guided by full-day kindergarten expansion for District 25. So these expansions tonight for both of the schools are guided by the full-day kindergarten program that will be coming to District 25 for implementation in the 2024-25 school year. Again, I wanted to show the principles, which were guiding principles for our kindergarten program and how we got to this point at this juncture, and going to the community referendum and having a successful community referendum. And these are, again, some of our community and personal guiding principles for the full-day kindergarten program. Going into Olive Mary Stitt, I wanted to discuss a little bit about the addition and the addition location going on the west side of the facility. Again, this addition is primarily to support the full-day kindergarten enrollment, not to say these classrooms will be used by kindergarten students. It's to support the overall need at the facility for the programs and that are supported at Olive Mary Stitt. A little bit of enrollment is included in this. We anticipate that the enrollment at Olive is going to be relatively flat into the future due to a larger kindergarten class sizes already at the school. So we don't see the larger increase that some of our other schools see between kindergarten and first grade. So the school is going to be projected to be relatively flat. So we're seeing kindergarten enrollment will be fairly level, and the overall school enrollment should be fairly level throughout 5 years that we are looking at. I also want to point out we are looking to have the addition go to the west, and if you're familiar with that site, you would question that. Why would we go to the west when we appear to have plenty of land to the east? The main driver of that is there's a ton of underground utilities on the direct east side of the facility, connecting the Belmont cul-de-sac to the south to Belmont Avenue to the north. So going through there are village utilities, ComEd, Nicolle, water mains, storm sewers, a lot of main utilities that would cost a large sum of money to relocate and be out of the way. At this point, we believe we have a good plan to go west, and that would supplement and allow us to add on to the west and be far enough away from Arlington Heights Road and blend in with the neighborhood. So at this time, we feel it's most cost beneficial to go to the west location of this site, and I'll go through that a little bit more in the coming slides. Going through the ownership and notification requirements that were for the are required through the village processes. We did have a community meeting on November 1st. One member attended, just some general questions about the projects and how they will be going forward in the future. We had our conceptual design review with unanimous support. The design commission had unanimous approval, and the plan commission as well had unanimous approval of the project. So we're here tonight to discuss the project in more detail with you, the Board of Trustees. Here's a summary of the items that we're looking for, seeking approval for tonight. I'll just leave them up here briefly, but we can reference back to them if we need to later on. I won't go through all of them, but in essence, we're looking at parking and a variance on a fence requirement at the site. Going over the site plan, this site is oriented on this drawing, north is up. So again, the addition is, we're proposing to go to the west, which is the left side. It's a yellowish color, closer to Arlington Heights Road. If you're familiar with that area, again, there's some larger trees along Arlington Heights Road, and there's a depressed area with a playground that's primarily used by our kindergarten and younger students. We'll be looking to offset that playground area to the east side to go closer to our existing playground structure that is already at the site. So we'll be looking to take that playground, the exact playground system, and relocating it over to the east side of the site so we can continue to have adequate play structure and areas for the school. We're also looking to propose to add some plantings along the north side of the facility to provide some screening for a sidewalk. We're proposing to add some screening along the west side of the perimeter, as well as an architectural fence that actually acts as a vehicle barrier. We had some concerns throughout the review process of the proximity to Arlington Heights Road, even though we feel it's far enough off the street and there's some tree protection. We are proposing to install this ornamental vehicle barrier fence that has a steel cable through it that can accept a car crash. So if a vehicle were ever to leave the roadway, that it would be able to absorb it and not get close to the building. So we're looking to propose that fence with some landscape screening along that west side of the site. And then also a few new plantings on the south side to screen from some neighbors. There is currently a solid wood fence on that location, but also just to break that fence up a little bit and some of that location on the southern edge by providing some screening. So again, 4 classrooms going in this location. There will be a small internal courtyard to this site. I also wanted to point out the red line is the line that I was talking about with the utilities coming through from the Belmont cul-de-sac and going up north to the Belmont Avenue location. And also want to point out the location of the parking lot. So that is a variation we're requesting. We currently do not have enough parking on site, but we do have an agreement with the neighboring church that allows us access to an additional 290 parking spots. So directly across Olive Street to the north is the parking lot, direct access into that parking lot after they cross Olive Street, and that is already used heavily by parents and staff for daily use at the school. So we're looking to extend that agreement. It is actually extended, and it's a great partnership because on weekends then they can use our parking lot when we're not using it during school hours. They can use it for their church services. So that is the 2 main things, again, is the fence along the west side and the parking on site. Again, this parking lot was reconfigured in 2016 with the addition that was put on then, so we did a lot of work then to get the parking lot to the configuration where it is, and as you'll see later, it flows very nicely and accepts all the traffic that is needed for the school. Just a floor plan, a little bit closer up of just showing the floor plan. Over to the left side, the west, is the 4 classrooms. There are 2 small office space and small group spaces that will also be added with this project. And the small yellow room to the south is just an outdoor storage room, just so we can put some grounds and equipment for snow removal or anything else that might be needed on that side of the building, since it is a fairly long distance to the main entrance. There is an exit door. It is on the far left, the green hallway coming down, where our intentions is that will primarily be used only for exiting the building in an emergency. We don't have any intention right now that we would load the building or people will be coming into the building that way. Again, our intentions at this point is primarily that door would be used for emergency egress only. The double doors that are kind of in the white area, again, the courtyard space, there is a full height masonry wall in that location. We went back and forth between deciding if we'd put a fence there or how we would enclose the courtyard. We decided it was best to make it look like a wall, so there will be double doors that will only be able to allow people out of the courtyard in case of an emergency. There will be no access into the courtyard from the outside unless it's a landscaper or maintenance type based thing. So there's no intention of using those doors. Sorry. Mine? Mine okay? We'll see. So again, that courtyard is again primarily internal to the building. There's a full height wall in that location to screen that and not allows people access into that location. Just a rendering, a 3D rendering. The first one on the top, the larger rendering, is looking from the northwest, looking back to the southeast, sitting kind of up at the corner of Arlington Heights Road and Olive Street. So that's just giving a picture of a little bit of the elevation change that occurs on that side of the building and bringing in some of the features that exist on the existing building with the red brick, a light tan band, and then this limestone cap. And then to the right side with the multiple windows, that is the corridor location. We worked through that a little bit to try to break up that elevation to make it look unique and give it some interest along that side. And again, dealing with the elevation changes, we thought that that was a good supplement along that side of the building. So again, the lower picture is just showing a different view from the west side of the facility. Again, here's the elevations of the building just in 2D plan view. Again, the addition is on the right side on the top view. That is, again, the north elevation of the facility. What you can't see on the full elevation here is that stone cap, limestone portion sits very nicely and filters into a portion that's higher along the north end a little bit to the east. So it does bookend that side of the building very nicely. We worked to bring that limestone in through across the facility. So again, bringing it up on that side does bookend the building very nicely. The west elevation, again, near Arlington Heights Road, bringing in some lighter colors. And also the southern elevation, again, you can see the location of the door into the courtyard, as long as the glass doors, they'll primarily be used for emergency egress. Talking through enrollment, as I discussed earlier, the enrollment is going to remain relatively flat, according to our demographer, based on a number of things going on in Arlington Heights. So currently we have 31 classrooms that we're showing in the blue bar. We're looking to go up to 35 classrooms at the facility. And based on our analysis of grade level sections, we anticipate the number of classrooms that will be needed for K through 5 usage will range between 30 and 31. And that'll allow some buffer space again for program needs at the building, for support services and breakout services that are needed at the facility. So we will be looking to have a few rooms that can be used for different services in the building. And then again, in the long-term future, if there was an enrollment bump, the building would be able to absorb that. Number of staff are only anticipating to go up by 2, and that is primarily, again, to support the full-day kindergarten program, because we'll need additional teachers to support the full-day kindergarten program. Going into traffic and parking, primarily, again, the discussion here is about the parking on site, the number of spots we have on site versus what we have off site. So again, the village requirement is 79 parking spaces for this size of school and the anticipated staffing at the facility. Again, we only have approximately 49 spaces going forward after the addition project. But again, directly across the street, that works very well. Again, just one crosswalk across the street. We do have access to 290 additional spots. Again, staff already use that location, and it's heavily used at the end of the day is for parents and that to park and walk up to the facility to get their student and then walk back across the street. We do have one bus at the facility, and the next several plans I'll show you where that parks, and then I'll also go through some more of the traffic flow at Olive in general. Again, this is the arrival. We've used this as an example because this is how we have reoriented several of the other lots now with the single entrance and exit of the lot. Again, this was done in 2016 when the gym and several classrooms were added to the facility at that time. So in general, you can see that the flow works very nicely, how we pull a large quantity of people off the street and get them up near the building. Again, this was done in September, this view. I'll show some views later of departure that was done more in colder months and a little bit of snow on the ground. But in general, this flow works very well for the school, and there's a large queuing area that works for the building. Just another different angle coming up over the Belmont cul-de-sac. This is one area that we've continued to work on, this Belmont cul-de-sac. We do see some parents, even though it's signed, that will drop off or pick up their student at location. It's been fairly light, but we do have that come up every once in a while where people will still go there because of the proximity to where they live and the proximity to the school and sidewalks and things like that. Going through departure, again, showing the main parking lot where cars queue up in the main parking lot. There is a bus indent along Olive Street where the one bus parks, so that's out of the flow of traffic. It works very nicely over on that side of the facility. We do see a large number of cars queuing up north on Belmont, up towards Thomas Middle School. Again, Thomas is let out earlier, so the times don't really match up, so it works nicely that cars can queue up to the north on Belmont and either wait there and pick up their student or walk up to the facility if there's adequate space for them to do so. And the orange area in that parking lot at the church is primarily used for parents to sit in their vehicles and get out at a certain point to come up to the main door and pick up their students. And the area to the south on Belmont is where I talked about the few cars. We occasionally will see several people drop off their student or wait there to pick up their student, and we believe it's primarily because they must live south of Olive and it's convenience at that point. We did notice one thing on Olive Street across on the northeast corner, I'll call it, from our entrance and exit. There's a couple cars that are coming from the east and trying to pull into our parking lot the wrong way, so we're going to continue to work on that. Again, it was 2 or 3 cars you'll see from the video that we see coming in trying to turn into the left and crossing traffic. We don't like that. We want them to come in off of Arlington Heights Road or come from Belmont and be able to turn right in, right out of that parking lot. Here's a departure video, again, roughly the same time frame in September of the initial video of the arrival. Again, showing the cars starting to queue up in the parking lot in this location. You can see there are already a large number of cars in the hashed area waiting along the curb line, waiting for their students to come in. They do keep the radius clear right now because of the number of students that cross there and parents that are walking across the corner of the radius. It still seems to work very adequately for the school. If we would see that as a problem, we'd have to work on trying to get more cars into the radius area of the parking lot and the hashed area. School was let out at 3:35, and you'll see here shortly that generally traffic starts flowing here very nicely shortly after, and the parking lot and streets generally clear fairly quickly. You can see the large number of parents and students walking over into the church parking lot as well. And this is just a more recent video of street level. Again, 5 or so minutes before the students were let out. This is heading eastbound on Olive back towards the school from Arlington Heights Road. This is the entrance here of the parking lot, and on this day, again, there's a car or two that are just starting to key out, and then on the left side, that's where we're looking to try to get those cars moving and going in a different way so they're not across the street. And this is on Belmont Street, coming from Thomas Middle School down towards Olive, coming to the intersection right here, or school. And again, with the last project, our biggest concern was this section of the roadway where cars were queuing up towards Arlington Heights Road, and as you can see, there are very few to no cars in that section of road where we were concerned before getting closer over to Arlington Heights Road. The stacking, again, this is a conceptual of how the cars can stack. We have queuing on site for 31 cars. It works fairly well. Again, you could see there was 1 or 2 cars that were just getting onto Olive Street, and that was very close to student being dismissed. So again, this works very well for the school in the new configuration. For stormwater, we're proposing, and it does work on engineering side, that the stormwater for the addition will go into our existing detention basin that is on the east side of the school near Greens Park. Again, that's all our property all the way over. We actually own Greens Park, the school district does, and it's through an intergovernmental agreement. The park district uses that area for their playgrounds and their park district areas. So again, the basin is sized appropriately to accept this addition. We'll look to convey that water down to that location. It'll be housed, and it will not provide any other detrimental impact to the neighborhood by having that stormwater go into that detention basin. In addition to that, we're looking for sustainability measures for LED lighting, high efficiency HVAC, low flow plumbing fixtures. We have several acres of green space yet at the site. There's adequate bike storage and ridership in particular at this school due to the downtown, or closer to the downtown proximity and the proximity of the neighboring homes. And then we're also exploring, again, solar across the district. This school has not been studied yet. Again, we've discussed Dryden as maybe our pilot school for this. But again, if those economics work out and our board decides so, we'll look at it further at additional schools. So with that, I will be open to any questions that you may have, and thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Schultz. Questions from the board? Trustee LaBedz.
Thank you. I have a few questions, and you touched on all of them, but I just want to make sure I fully understand. My kids went to this school many years ago, and in fact, when I think it was the early 1990s edition was put on which was the kindergarten wing at the time. So I know at that time the kindergarten equipment was sized for them and so on. So you did say that you'll be still using that, but in the relocated space.
Yeah, we had our playground contractor already verify that. That structure's in very good condition. We had replaced a lot of parts in 2016 with the addition. So we're looking again to offset it and just directly move the playground structure onto that east side of the site near the existing playground structure for the bigger kids, the 5 to 12-year-old kids.
Okay, great. That reusing certainly helps,
Yeah, it helps.
save some money, and as long as it's in great shape, that's a good thing. The fence on the Arlington Heights roadside, that is a wonderful thing. I think you can't be too safe. And if I understood it because I couldn't tell from the pictures that I was just looking on my little computer, but it looks like it's just parallel and doesn't turn.
Correct.
Yeah, okay. And it's about, how far, do you know?
Maybe 100 feet to get a guesstimate done. Don's our architect.
Oh.
Maybe 100 feet or so. It's the kind of the full extent of that western elevation.
Okay. I was very happy to see that and definitely support this variation because, like I said, you can't be too careful. You don't know what might happen these days for any number of reasons. And then the third question I had to do with the courtyard. So you said that there's no, the door, I guess, to the south, that's an egress only door that goes to the outside.
Yes, correct.
But people and students and staff can enter it from the north.
Yeah,
door.
If you notice the north side there near the light green kind of hallway, there's a double set of doors. That's glass doors that can go into that location. We have a similar courtyard already at the school. It's not used heavily because of the proximity to the classrooms, but they can use it, right? If it works scheduling wise, that they're not going to be disruptive to the classrooms next to them, they can use it.
And it's open to the air?
Yes.
Okay. Like they at least get out, get a little fresh air if they need to. So, okay, thank you. I just wanted those points clarified. Thanks a lot.
Trustee Grasse.
Thank you. Well, actually, Trustee LaBedz actually asked my question about the courtyard, but I just really wanted to share that I really appreciate the fence being put in. I drive by there every day for work, and I always think about that. So I was really happy to see that fence as part of the plan. Thank you.
Thanks.
Trustee Tinaglia.
Really quickly, the courtyard, I went to these schools, and I went to Ridge, and then Thomas, and then Arlington High School, and each of them had a courtyard to some degree. What's the function of this courtyard, really?
Yeah, primarily it's to let light and air, our mechanical equipment for those 3 classrooms that are existing are right along that wall. So primarily this courtyard's meant to allow light into those classrooms, and then their airflow comes in from that side of the building as well. So that's the primary function, and then it again will allow some light and airflow into the classrooms, the new classrooms, those 2 classrooms along the west side. So the primary function is really air and light for those.
It's really not going to be pedestrian.
No.
Yeah. Okay. That was my question. Thank you.
Trustee Scaletta.
Thank you. So you mentioned that the engineering was done within the calculations of the village and MWRD. Do you have approval yet from MWRD?
No, not yet. We'll seek approval after this.
Okay. And so as of now, it fits within everything that we believe, that it's not going to create any kind of flooding in the neighborhood?
That's correct, Trustee Scaletta. The preliminary review by engineering is that this should work. We are requiring the final calculations to be submitted, and they cannot submit to MWRD until our engineering division reviews it and signs that application that then gets filed to MWRD. So that final review with all the final calculations will take place before that happens.
Excellent. I've had a couple of parents from Olive reach out to me regarding the, I don't know, one person said that there was no emergency exit, and I said, well, that's not possible. And I see that the exit that you have for those 4 classrooms and 2 offices, and so the width of that is sufficient for an emergency?
Yeah, my understanding, again, we have Don Hanson and Mike Henderson, both here from the SDR Partners architect firm. They've calculated that and verified that that location works.
You're going to have to come forward if you're going to talk. Just identify yourself if you would.
Yes, I'm Don Hanson with STR Partners Architects, and yes, the exiting complies with International Building Code Edition 2015 as required by the state of Illinois.
Great. And then I noticed that in the courtyard, there's an entrance, and then it appears there would be an exit. Is that an additional way that people would be able to get out?
So both the doors at the north and the south are just intended to be exits.
Mr. Hanson, come up by the microphone if you would.
Yeah. Folks at home can't hear you if you're not on the microphone.
Both doors from the courtyard, both at the north and the south, are just intended to be exits.
Okay, so when they swing in, they really swing out on the top part, on the north?
They're exits from the courtyard, so that we kind of treat that, I guess, as like another room. So people can go out to the south, or they can exit up to the north, and then they can go out to the door out of the existing building to the north, or they could come around to the south to get out of the courtyard space. So the intent is not to come from the classroom spaces and flow through the courtyard to exit in case of emergency. As you can see from the door swings, how they're swinging out of the courtyard.
Right.
To the north, they can go out to the north, or they can go out to the south if they're in the courtyard space. The intention is not for them to come from the building through the courtyard as a means of egress. The egress is through the corridor, the green corridor, the new corridor, or through the existing corridor out to the north.
Okay, but if the courtyard was to be used,
Correct.
there would be access even though the door's open the other way.
The doors go in the correct way to the north because they will go up into the building and flow out through the path of egress through the exit signs. And if they're in the courtyard, they can also go out to the south where the doors swing out to the south to get out of the facility.
Got it, but there's no, in the event that there was ever an emergency, there's no way to go through the courtyard?
You can, if the doors are unlocked, yes. You could go through those doors if they're unlocked and maintained, yes. In the last case, it is not the intention, it's not designed that way, but you could go through the courtyard if needed.
May I try?
Please. Mayor, can I yield the floor to Trustee
Sure,
Tinaglia?
Trustee Tinaglia.
Sure. You have to look at this like a big conference room that will never be used as a conference room. Anybody who happened to be stranded in that space for any reason, they have to be able to get out from two different directions. So you can go to the north or go to the south, and the door has to swing in the direction of leaving the room. They are not designing this to be used as a hallway or any kind of intermediate space to go from the green through the white and then outside. It's its own function only for light and mechanical equipment. They mentioned earlier they don't plan on it being pedestrian at all. It's really just a space. So these doors have to swing in the direction of someone leaving the space at all times. It's not to go from this space through that space and then out.
Okay. And in the event that there was, God forbid, a fire in classroom, give me a second while I zoom. 064. In the event that there was a fire down there, they would be able to then go through the regular, the existing building to get out, correct?
Correct.
Okay, all right. And then I'm looking at the renderings that you've provided us. And there you go. They look great the way they are right now. I don't see any HVAC units. Is there any kind of screening of those units along Arlington Heights Road?
I think those are smaller units in the location.
Correct. The only HVAC units that will be on top of the building are condensing units that are similar to a residential unit that would be in the back of someone's house, so say 2 or 3 feet high. Rather than the lighter color section that you see in the foreground.
I'm not sure if you're supposed to get closer or further away.
I don't think.
See Kevin working on it back there.
So they'll be behind that higher, lightly colored brick volume. So they'll be screened from Arlington Heights Road and also from Olive with the higher volume as well. The building will screen these small units.
Okay. Thank you for that. This looks like that this school functions very well for ingress and egress with traffic, for school pickup and drop-off, and I wish you the best moving forward.
Thank you.
Mr. Perkins, I forgot to call on you. Was there anything else you wanted to add?
No, staff recommended approval of the proposal with the variations, or the variation for the fence and the parking, and the Plan Commission did as well. There are some conditions that were shown on the screen. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have on those. Those deal with, controls for the village and the community in the event there are traffic issues or parking issues down the road, or in the event the parking agreement with Orchard Church would expire. Allows the school to present a revised plan to address those issues, subject to the village's review and approval.
Thank you, Mr. Perkins. Anything else from the board? Anything from the audience? Melissa.
Melissa Kerr speaking. Open ranch school, avoid building additions, redistrict, and offer school choice. Arlington Heights has dense housing units, which causes water management issues.
Okay, thank you. Anything else from the audience? Seeing none, is there a motion?
I would concur with the Plan Commission's recommendation.
Second.
Motion by Trustee Scaletta, second by Trustee Bertucci. Any further questions or comments from the board or from the audience? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? On to number 2. Patton School.
Great. So the next school is Patton Elementary School, kind of on the northern end of Arlington Heights for our district. Again, guided by primarily the full-day kindergarten program at Patton Elementary School, where we're looking to add 3 classroom spaces to the facility. Again, the community referendum was the main driver of this project. We will have a slight enrollment increase that we're projecting at this school in the next couple of years. Again, it's fairly small, but did just want to point that out that we are projecting with the full-day kindergarten program coming in, we will see enrollment go up slightly. I also want to bring up and point out that our board is exploring a potential in the near future to expand the gymnasium, even though that's not included in this scope of work at this time. This is primarily focused on full-day kindergarten. We may be coming forward in the future to discuss a gym expansion similar to what we did at Windsor Elementary School several years ago. It's primarily being driven by the amount of PE sections that we need to have at the facility and the size of the current gym. We don't feel that it's adequate to support 2 sections of PE, so we will be looking at that. Again, this wasn't brought forth in the referendum. Our board is exploring this further on the curriculum side if it would be warranted. Currently, the stormwater portion, though, that we are designing for this facility will accommodate a gym expansion, so those are being taken into account already for the expansion of the gymnasium is being taken into account in the stormwater calculations for this portion of the project, just in case it would happen at any point in the future that our stormwater system would be able to accommodate the gym expansion if it was now or well into the future. Ownership and notification, again, we had a neighborhood meeting. We did not have any attendance from the neighborhood at that meeting. We had the conceptual design review where we had unanimous support. The design commission as well, we had unanimous approval. The plan commission meeting on February 8th, we had unanimous approval as well. And here we are tonight to discuss this project further with you, the Board of Trustees. Here is the summary of items we're seeking variances and approval for tonight, primarily driven by landscape islands and parking lots. An accessory structure that we have on the north side of the facility already. We're looking to relocate that out of the parking lot area and free up some parking spaces. I'll point that out in the next few slides. And again, some parking lot landscape issues that we're trying to supplement with trees and landscaping around the parking lot, but to maintain the existing footprint of the parking lot as is and maintain parking spaces as well in the lots by having the variance. Here is a site plan of the Patton site. Again, along the north side, we're looking to add some screening along the north side due to the proximity of the neighbors in the parking lot. So that is not existing arborvitae and hedging along that north side. So new trees along the existing parking lot along that north side. Again, we're looking to replace this parking lot and bring it up to some stormwater management practices in that parking lot. But again, we're not looking to change the footprint due to the way it's working now. It currently works well for that facility. The accessory structure was put in, I don't know, it was probably 15 to 20 years ago to house the snow blower and some outdoor equipment in that location. It currently sits on one parking stall. It's a concrete masonry type unit. It's a precast unit that can be relocated. So we're proposing to relocate it off of the parking lot to free up some parking spaces and put it near an emergency drive aisle that is currently on the site there on the north side of the facility. Again, we're requesting a variation to not include the landscape islands along the north parking lot. We are proposing to install some new trees and again the landscape screening along the north side of the parking lot to supplement for some of that. The addition, I will point out, is in the red box. So that's the primary location where the addition will go with the 3 new classrooms. It connects a 2-story addition that was done in the early 2000s back to a portion of the building near the commons and gym area. So it'll provide some flow to the facility from that northern classroom wing that's already existing, and it'll flow back to the commons and gym area and sit nicely within kind of the existing building footprint by the detent area that is sitting there in that location now. Again, this facility will have a small courtyard space that's similar to some of our other schools, and it will work fine there to provide air and light into those classrooms that already exist. The purple box, I'm just trying to show general proximity of where the gym expansion may occur in the future. Again, that's attached right next to the existing gym area, so we're looking to come out to the west kind of portion of the site. Just kind of giving you a perspective on where that may occur into the future. Our underground stormwater system to accommodate the addition and some other portions of the site will be primarily under the parking lot, the existing parking lot structure. So again, we will be replacing this parking lot and then putting the storm trap system underneath the parking lot to accommodate for the stormwater. And we're also looking to propose to add some permeable pavers in this parking lot to help with stormwater management in that southern lot as well. We are, again, looking to omit the landscape islands in this parking lot to accommodate the permeable pavers that we're going to be putting in, as well as putting some new trees and perimeter landscaping as well in that southern parking lot. Here's a closer up view of the actual floor plan with the 3 classrooms in the orange color. the corridor in the green, and then some ancillary spaces, small group storage and office space in the yellow, the 3 spaces in the yellow. We felt that this time was the best time to build those 3 office type spaces because they're internal to the building and most cost effective to build those now. Again, a small courtyard that only requires 1 exit to this courtyard due to the size. Again, primarily to allow air into some existing classroom spaces and light into those rooms that are existing near the common space. Again, the 3 classrooms will be primarily along the west elevation of the facility. This addition is being built so that in the future, if an addition was ever needed again, that the addition can go up. So we could accept a 2nd-story addition on this facility, where it would tie in nicely with the existing 2-story section on the north part of the building. And then we'd have to install a new staircase on the southern end that would be constructed later, but it is designed in the plans on how it would conceptually work on the southern end near the gymnasium and classroom section. So again, this provides us a nice flow. It sits nicely within the existing building footprint, so that's why we propose to put the addition on the western sort of elevation of the facility. Here's a rendering of the addition, again bringing in the stone near the doors and entranceways, a brick band that's a lighter color, or almost a white color brick band across the facility that kind of carries through from the existing facility, and then again the red brick that's kind of synonymous with District 25 in all our facilities. We were working very hard to make the windows work properly, because again the addition on the north side has some clear story windows and some punch out windows, so I think this brings together nicely and sits in between the two, bringing them together nicely from the existing building over towards the existing gym area. Again, just showing the plans in elevation in 2D view, just to give you a little bit better view of all the views. Again, the top is the primary view that is most visible from the playground area, and then the other ones are just ancillary views. In fact, a majority of them are not viewing to the public because they're in the courtyard or in a tucked away area where you really cannot see them in a public view. Going through enrollment, again, we do see an increase coming at this school, and it's, again, primarily driven by the anticipated enrollment bump in kindergarten. We anticipate more students will start coming to this school because of the full-day kindergarten program. So we will see an enrollment bump in the kindergarten sections going forward. So again, we anticipate the enrollment to go from the current 401 up to possibly 422 in the 26-27 school year. And for classroom usage, again, we're using 21 classrooms right now, or we have 21 full-size classrooms right now. We'll be going up to 24. And as you can see in the gray bars, we look to see 21 to 22 classrooms used at the facility for sections. So again, we're looking to have that little bit of buffer space between the 24 and 22 for support services and needs of the facility. For staffing, we're only looking to go up by the 2 for the kindergarten staff. So those what we anticipate would be the full-time kindergarten teachers that would be added to the school to support the full-day kindergarten program. Traffic and parking, again, we're looking to work within the confines of the existing parking lot on the north side and the existing parking spot lot on the south side. There's a little bit of a net change on where the parking spots goes, and that's primarily driven by how the handicap spaces are spaced out now with the new code. So that's why there's a decrease in one lot and an increase in the other. It's just the net on handicap parking space layouts. So that's the only change to the parking. Parking lots currently, again, are 69% occupied during the parking survey. They do meet the requirements of the village ordinance for parking spaces. Again, we don't have any buses or any taxis at this school facility. Arrival at Patton, again, showing the parking lots and the entrance of the main parking lot on the corner of Patton. So again, just I'll let you watch this a little bit. We do have a very nice traffic aisle in this location that the cars can pull fully into the site, and drop-offs near the back of the school, so that helps, right? So students are going to the back of the facility to line up on the playground area and enter the facility, so that naturally draws cars back away from the street by that location. Again, we do have a large portion of students that walk from Maud on the back side of the facility as well. Like you can see parents walking on the sidewalk to the left of the screen. I did show departure here on this view, just showing the departure stacking in the parking lot, again, primarily queued up in the main parking lot on the south side of the facility. The drawing on the left shows the mapping of where cars kind of queue up as well for drop-off, or I should say pickup. Again, we see cars on Patton Avenue along the street. Again, on that school side of the street, we do have a carriage walk along that side of the street, so students can get to their cars a little bit easier along Patton. We do see some cars on Maud in that short section between Kennecott, where cars are waiting to get into our parking lot, just the proximity of that corner. A couple cars wait there until they can get into the parking lot. And then we do see some cars queuing up south on Patton, aiming to the south and exiting that way through Patton Avenue to the south. We do have a couple cars that queue up on the southern portion of the site near that sidewalk. Again, there's a small sidewalk that goes through the site over into the southern portion. Again, we see a car or two kind of wait there because they see there's an advantage to not dealing with traffic and being able to walk up to the school and get back out. The first view street level is from Patton coming to the south. Again, this is sped up to just condense the time. We do have some concern with the cars on the left side in that location. I believe that some are neighborhood cars and some are actually our parents. So we're going to continue to work on that with communication not stopping there on that left side, the actual east side of the street. And then this is going south on Patton past the school, and we see the cars queued up along the school side of the street in that location. As I discussed along Patton Avenue on the northeast kind of corner of the site, we do have the carriage walk location, so we do have a number of cars that can queue up there and allow their students in and out of the vehicle on that side of the site, in addition to the 18 vehicles that can queue up on our school parking lot and flow through the parking lot nicely during the departure time. For stormwater, as I discussed earlier, the stormwater storm trap system will go underneath the existing parking lot, so that will be excavated and a new parking lot will be placed on top of it. The system will accommodate the addition, and again, we are calculating that the gym addition would be able to be accommodated in that system as well. So again, day one, it's going to be oversized, but then if the gym addition would go forward, it will be properly sized to accommodate that as well. So we're looking to install that in addition to some permeable pavers in that southern lot to help out with a little bit of volume control in that parking lot as well. Again, the same sustainability items we're looking to implement here at this school, and with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. First, I'm going to go to Mr. Perkins.
Thank you. Let me just walk through a couple of the variations and explain staff and plan commission's reasoning on recommending approval. There's a small variation for the shed. We did ask the school to move the shed out of a parking space. Parking is very valuable, and they are doing that. It does need a variation to be in the side yard. And then there are two landscape variations. They could expand the parking lot on the south, but it would, to provide the two islands here and here, they would have to expand out into the green space by at least 20 feet. And you'd actually take up more green space than you would gain by including those landscape islands. In addition, they've got the permeable pavers in that area. This shows where the variations are requested, so the shed in this location. In the north lot, there's one parking lot landscape island being requested as a variation, and in the south parking lot, there's two. To compensate for that, everything highlighted in green is the additional landscaping that they're adding. So in the north parking lot, they're adding 4 trees and a new perimeter landscape screening along the north. And on the south, they're adding actually 6 trees, 2 in islands on the south of the parking lot, and 4 additional trees. And then landscape screening along the edge of the parking lot to screen from the homes to the south. So we feel, it's got a large open space, green space area that's also used with the baseball field or softball fields, and maintaining that green space is important. They are accommodating by adding the additional trees. This school, like the others, has increased capacity beyond what's been analyzed in the traffic study. So if school enrollment were to exceed the 422 that was in that study, or projected to exceed, then we would want the school district to demonstrate that pickup and drop-off was satisfactory and can be accommodated. Also the same condition that we've had in others, that irregardless of that, to continue to work with the village and the neighbors to address any parking or traffic issues. The only issue that we saw on the traffic coming into the site was a few vehicles stopping on Kennecott, on the east side of Kennecott northbound, before making a left turn movement into Maud, so that would have to be monitored. We did consult with police on that, and they didn't see it as a huge issue at this time, but just something that needs to be kept an eye on. So with that, both staff and the Plan Commission recommended approval with these conditions. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Mr. Perkins. Questions from the board? Trustee Tinaglia.
Thanks, Mayor. Charles, can you go back to the slide that shows the parking lot and the stormwater detention? Right. So is that accurate, that blue L-shaped, the very long L-shape? That's going to be a whole brand new underground vault?
That's correct. And then the yellow are the permeable pavers. It's approximate, but fairly close.
That's huge. It's really big.
Correct. Yes.
Is there none there now?
So the original building addition was done in 1990, and then after that they did additions without going through the zoning process at the time. So I don't know whether there's no detention on site or not. There certainly isn't in the parking lot, so I can tell you that.
So this is a really big improvement. I mean, it's a lot of money to put this kind of a storm system in under that parking lot, and to add this kind of control for rainwater leaving the site. This is a big improvement for the neighborhood. I mean, the neighbors there should experience some help here with this. This is great. I just can't believe it's that big, and I guess it's because there never was any in the first place. Because generally what happens is if you have a small addition like we're putting on here, you just need a small increase like what you're doing at Olive. You're just adding to a basin that's already there, and it's big enough as is, right? But this case, you're putting in all new stuff. It's a big budget item.
Yeah, so it's again, partially driven again by that addition, and then because we're doing the parking lots, we're accommodating the existing parking lots. We're not changing really the grade or the layout of the parking lot, but we're accommodating the stormwater in that new facility that's gonna be put in.
Right. Well, thanks for doing it. Like I said, I think the neighborhood's gonna appreciate that. And then I had one question for you. When you think about the kindergartens, the full-day kindergartens, and the students in the area, the children that live there, how much work do you guys do, research do you do, to think about children that might be going to other facilities, private schools and things like that, that once you have this in place, how many of those will change their minds from what they've been doing or had been doing with other family members and suddenly become District 25 Patton School or Olive School members because it's available? Is that a real thing? Is that something that you guys are studying and paying attention
Yes, so
to?
our superintendent, Dr. Biden, is not able to be here tonight, but she has reached out to every one of those entities that have like a full-day kindergarten program already,
Yeah.
or have some preschool type programs. We're going to see varying amounts of kids coming from those programs and coming over to ours, and some are going to see less. Like, it just depends on the program and what they offer at the parochial or other private entities. There's varying degrees of where we're going to see that come in.
Some neighborhoods, some schools, more than others is what you're saying.
Hi, Stacy Malik, Assistant Superintendent for Business for the school district. We actually know a lot of those numbers because we look at our first grade numbers and we can tell by school. Every year we have a general number. At some schools it's an additional 20 kids. At some schools it might be 7. So we look at those numbers every year. The enrollment projections you see for 26-27, we had our demographer look at that with full-day kindergarten implemented, with the understanding that we would pick up and have at the kindergarten level the first grade numbers we typically see, assuming the kids who are coming from the private schools in first grade will now start coming in kindergarten. So that's all built into this.
So you don't really expect any surprises. You feel confident that you've done your homework and you know who's out there and who might become new members of the school.
To the extent we have, professional enrollment projections for the next 5 years, yes.
Yeah, great. Okay, that's the only questions I had. Thank you.
Thanks. Trustee Scaletta.
Thank you. I will say that our son went to a private kindergarten because it was only half-day kindergarten, and we were not comfortable with him taking a bus after school to go to daycare in order to fill up the whole day. So we would have been one of those families that took advantage of full-day kindergarten at Dryden. So the north lot, when do you anticipate starting construction on that north lot?
Most likely in the summer of 2024.
Okay, so so by the time summer's over, it'll be open?
Correct. That's our intention, yes.
Okay. Because I think that's important. Give you a great compliment on Olive and the circulation. Patton's almost the opposite. I mean, it does circulate, but I went to the school today I like to go and see what we're talking about. And I came from the south, and I can't turn left, so I had to go around and find a way to then come back around. And then I go in, and then I want to turn left out of the parking lot, and I can't. I can only turn right because I want to then go look at the north side parking lot. So that is a very, very challenging school. And I'm not suggesting that we do anything different with the ingress and egress because it's there to protect the students. But it's a bit of a challenge.
Yeah, I would agree. Just the location of the corner there of Patton and where the entrances are and the proximity to the neighbors, it's a difficult site to try to reconfigure that would make it better, I guess, at this point.
Sure. When did you put in the carriageway?
I don't know. That's always been there. That carriageway's been there for a long time.
It's exactly what we talked about at the last meeting for Dryden.
Right.
So you guys know how to do it.
Somebody does. I don't know who put that in, but it is able to put in.
All right. Well, let's get to it. I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. Trustee LaBedz.
Thank you. Thank you for Trustee Scaletta for asking about the parking lot timing, because that was going to be one of my two questions. So since obviously you need them both when school's open. So I'm glad to know there's a plan. I figured there was, but glad to know what it is. Back to courtyards. I guess in a way I sort of had an aha moment. It's been a long day. And you talked about well, it's really because those existing classrooms already have windows.
Correct.
So you wouldn't butt something up against that, for putting on an addition. So that was kind of an aha moment for me. But this one at Patton appears to be wider than the one at Olive. And so the question then I have is it sufficient? Does it get much light? Will be sufficient light? I don't know what sufficient would be exactly, but kids,
Are you asking for the classroom
For the
spaces?
classrooms.
Yeah, they do. We actually have it again. We have it all over the district, existing courtyards, and they do. It really does give nice light into the space. Again, it depends on the sun and some shading of the building heights. But in general, with a one-story addition going in that location, it's great. We have actually a two-story courtyard at Thomas Middle School that's really small as well, and we don't have any complaints with light in those classrooms, and it's very well lit in those spaces.
Okay, good. Natural light is always better than what comes on with a switch. So it's good to know that they'll be able to have that. And sorry, it didn't dawn on me earlier that, we were talking about rooms with existing windows, so we certainly don't want to block those. So thank you. That's all I have.
Anything else from the board? Seeing none? Anything,
Go ahead.
anything from the audience? Trustee Bertucci, go ahead.
No, I was just going to make the motion to approve the amendment presented here and the land use variation.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Trustee Bertucci, seconded by Trustee Grasse. Any further questions or comments from the board? Anything from the audience? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Well, that's 4 for 4.
Thank you very much.
So
Appreciate it.
congratulations. Best of luck to you guys as you move forward.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for all you guys do in District 25 as well. Appreciate it. All right, there is no other new business, so we'll move on to the report of the village manager. Mr. Ecklas, anything?
Nothing this evening.
Anything from the board under petitions and communications? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Trustee Tinaglia, seconded by Trustee Scaletta. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you all for joining us this evening.